I guide my silver lucid air into the curved driveway of my family home, the electric luxury sedan gliding silently to rest between Chase's bright yellow Porsche and Derek's sensible SUV. A familiar knot forms in my stomach, one I haven't experienced since departing this house 3 years prior. Father's Tudor-style estate remains unchanged. Manicured grounds, spotless windows, flawless in every aspect that mattered to Warren Maddox. My reflection catches my eye in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back bears little resemblance to the girl who escaped this place. Sharp black business suit, hair arranged with deliberate precision, lips painted in bold crimson. On the passenger seat rests a black envelope marked Dad in silver script. My hand wavers above it, shaking almost imperceptibly, before I grab it firmly. Follow the plan, I murmur to myself. The front door swings open before I can reach it. Warren Maddox dominates the entrance, a towering figure with silver hair and perpetually creased brow. His gaze travels from my face to the car beyond, eyes narrowing fractionally. "So you actually came," he remarks, his tone carrying that recognizable note of mild astonishment that I've managed something as basic as punctual arrival. "Happy Father's Day." I brush past him into the entryway, the envelope discreetly secured in my handbag. The house carries the scent of roasted meat and wood polish, constants that never alter. "Serena Chase," comes a voice from the living room, glass already in hand despite the early afternoon hour. "Sharp outfit, heading to a job interview?" My eldest brother reclines on the leather couch, his smile too bright, too rehearsed. At 35, he maintains the bearing of his former quarterback glory, though his midsection hints at advancing years. Derek stands near the mantelpiece, more reserved, offering a modest wave. "Good to see you, sis." My attention drifts to the gallery of family portraits covering one wall. My brothers' faces dominate. Derek's athletic achievements, Chase's business accolades, countless images of them flanking our father at various functions. I appear in precisely 3 photographs, consistently cropped at the edges or positioned at the periphery. And there it remains, Mom's vacant chair, still placed in its customary spot beside the window where she once read. 3 years since her passing, and her absence represents the only thing they've maintained with genuine reverence. "Drink?" Warren inquires, already moving toward the bar cart without awaiting my response. "Water's perfect." "Still avoiding alcohol?" "Some habits persist." He shrugs while pouring himself 2 fingers of whiskey. I settle at the dining table, strategically positioned for an unobstructed view of the driveway through the bay window. The table displays the finest china, reserved for special events, or perhaps to remind guests of the Maddox family's standing. The recollection strikes without warning. 3 years ago, this same room, my laptop open, presenting the educational software prototype I devoted 18 months to developing. Warren's eyes losing focus as I detailed the algorithm that customized itself to individual learning approaches. Chase interrupting mid-explanation. "Sorry to cut you short, sis, but Dad, you need to see these Phoenix commercial properties I'm considering." That quickly, my moment dissolved. Warren's attention immediately shifting as Chase produced his phone, Derek's sympathetic glance offering pity, but no advocacy. Later that evening, Warren toasting my boys, Chase with his million-dollar listings, Derek guiding his team to state championships. No acknowledgement of my work. The daughter at the table might as well have been invisible. I made my choice that night. "Still involved with that computer stuff?" Chase asks now, pulling me back to the present. "Something along those lines." I sip my water carefully. Warren brings the roast to the table with ceremonial flair, carving knife catching the afternoon light. The ritual feels achingly familiar. Chase launches into tales of his latest transaction, 7 figures, Dad, and the commission cleared yesterday. Derek follows with updates about his students' college athletic scholarships. "What about you, Serena?" Warren asks without looking up from his carving. "Still freelancing?" "Actually, I've been occupied with a recent acquisition." Chase scoffs. "What, like purchasing a new laptop?" The laughter rippling around the table stings, but I don't react. This matches my expectations exactly. Warren raises his glass. "Proud of my boys." He glances at me with that familiar, dismissive expression. "And then there's the other one." More laughter. I place my napkin beside my plate and rise. I brought you something, Dad. The black envelope lands on the table with a gentle tap. I turn and exit to reposition my car directly in front of the bay window. Upon my return, they're all gathered at the window, staring at the luxury vehicle with bewilderment. Warren clutches the unopened envelope, his expression caught between irritation and curiosity. "What is this?" he demands. "Open it and discover." I watch as the envelope trembles in Warren's grip. His knuckles pale as he extracts the stack of documents, legal letterhead stark against his weathered fingers. The first page unfolds like a declaration of war. This cannot be accurate. His voice abandons its usual commanding presence, replaced by something I've never heard before, uncertainty. Chase grabs the papers, eyes racing across the text. "What is it? What's the problem?" Derek peers over his shoulder, forehead furrowing. I don't comprehend. I remain motionless, my pulse steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. This moment has occupied my thoughts for 3 years, rehearsed in countless variations. None compare to the raw reality unfolding before me. "It's precisely what it appears to be," I state, my voice steadier than anticipated. Arden EdTech has acquired controlling shares in Apex Core Solutions through a strategic holding company. The documentation confirms the transfer of majority interest. Warren's complexion drains as comprehension dawns. "You purchased my company?" "Not your company, your employer," I correct with precision. "You haven't owned anything at Apex Core since you sold your founder's shares to finance Chase's failed restaurant venture 8 years ago." The living room falls silent except for the grandfather clocks ticking in the corner, the one Mom restored when I was 10. "What have you done?" Warren's question emerges as a whisper before escalating to a bellow. "What have you done?" Chase's eyes narrow, calculating. I recognize that expression, the same one he wore when appropriating my science fair project in 7th grade, claiming my work as his own. "Arden EdTech? You rebranded your little hobby?" "No," I respond. "I legally changed my name to Serena Arden, then built a company that has impact." Derek collapses into a chair, his athletic frame suddenly diminished. I don't understand how. I take a measured breath. 3 years ago, I departed with nothing but my education and an algorithm nobody here valued. I developed adaptive learning software that dynamically adjusts to individual student learning patterns. Last year, we completed a $40 million funding round. Last month, we acquired Apex Core. Warren slams his palm on the dining table, making the china rattle. That's impossible. No education startup could generate that level of capital. You'd understand that if you'd ever bothered reading any of my correspondence. I retrieve my phone, scrolling to a saved message. Like this one from 2 years ago when I wrote about our first major contract with the Texas school system. Or this 1-inch. I swipe again, when Forbes featured me in their 30 under 30 issue. Warren's face contorts. "I contacted your professor, back when you were developing that ridiculous prototype. Advised him not to waste university resources on your project." The admission hangs in the air. I suspected, but hearing confirmation sends ice through my veins. "I know," I reply. "Professor Harmon told me everything. He funded my initial development anyway." Chase shifts uncomfortably. "Look, sis, we were just trying to protect you from disappointment. That's why I told those investors to reconsider. It wasn't personal." My laughter surprises even me. "Which investors, Chase?" "Marcus Thompson at Horizon Ventures or Richard Klein at First Capital. Because I have the emails you sent telling them my hobby business wasn't worth their time." I extract a thin folder from my purse, placing it beside the acquisition papers. "I have every text, every email, every conversation where you sabotaged me, all meticulously documented." Derek looks up, his expression genuinely wounded. "Serena, I had no idea they were doing that." "Your silence made you complicit, Derek. Every time they dismissed me and you remained quiet, you chose their side." Warren rises abruptly, attempting to reclaim the authority draining from him with each passing moment. "You cannot manage a company like Apex Core. You lack the experience and connections." "My company has outperformed Apex Core for 6 consecutive quarters," I state flatly. Our retention rates triple industry standards, and our software serves over 4 million students nationwide. Your division now reports to my board of directors. Chase leans forward, his smile suddenly ingratiating. We should discuss how this impacts the family. There might be synergies we could explore together. There's nothing to discuss. I close the folder with a soft tap. I'm informing you as a courtesy, not seeking permission or partnership. My phone buzzes. A text from Thomas. Transition team in position. All systems operational. That's my business partner, I explain. The one who recognized my potential when my own family couldn't. Along with Margaret Wilson, who mentored me when I looked directly at Warren, told me women don't belong in tech leadership. The memory surfaces unbidden. Last Christmas, alone in my cramped apartment while they vacationed in Aspen. The family photo Chase posted, captioned, Maddox tradition, as if I didn't exist. Chase stands quickly. Let's discuss how we can collaborate. Family businesses have advantages. We ceased being family when you decided I wasn't worth your respect. I interrupt. Derek rises, his voice quiet. I had no idea you felt this way, that things had deteriorated this badly. For a moment, his sincerity almost reaches me. Almost. I'm not here for revenge, I say. I'm here for closure. The weight that's pressed on my chest for years lifts as I speak these words. The family that never acknowledged me now grapples with the woman I've become. 3 years earlier, I stand in the center of my Las Cruces studio apartment, arms extended, barely able to touch opposing walls. Everything I own occupies just 380 square feet. A second-hand futon serving double duty as my bed, a desk salvaged from university surplus, and a whiteboard consuming the entire wall opposite my kitchenette. The whiteboard tells my true story. Red, blue, and black markers map out educational software architecture, user experience flows, behavioral tracking algorithms, revenue projections. In the corner, a small calendar marks 278 days since I walked out of my father's house. This is either genius or insanity, I whisper to the empty room, the words lingering in air scented with instant ramen and coffee. My laptop chimes with a calendar alert. In 8 minutes, I have a client call for my UI/UX contract work, the foundation that keeps this dream alive. I rush to adjust my shirt and smooth my hair before activating the webcam. The apartment remains carefully out of frame. Clients don't need to witness my reality. After the call, I return to coding. Hours vanish as my fingers dance across the keyboard, constructing a world inside the machine where learning adapts to each student's needs. The program begins taking shape, clumsy initially, then gradually more responsive, more intelligent. At 2:47 a.m., the prototype completes its first successful run without crashing. It works. I tell no one, my voice cracking with exhaustion and wonder. My eyes burn, my back aches, but something inside me soars as the program demonstrates precisely what I promised in that dining room presentation my family couldn't be bothered to appreciate. Algorithms responding to different learning patterns, content adapting to engagement levels, real-time feedback that encourages rather than punishes. From the mini fridge, I retrieve a single chocolate cupcake purchased yesterday from the bakery down the street. A birthday candle, just one, protrudes from its center. I light it with a match, the flame illuminating my weary face. Happy prototype day, I whisper before extinguishing it. The next morning, my car refuses to start. The mechanic quotes $780 for repairs, money I simply don't possess. The bus schedule becomes my new scripture. 2 hours each way to meet clients in person, laptop balanced on my knees during rides. Dinner becomes whatever costs least, ramen with an egg for protein, peanut butter sandwiches, oatmeal for every breakfast. I calculate calories per dollar with the same precision I code. The growing stack of rejection emails from potential investors sits in a folder labeled Motivation. Your concept lacks market validation. Educational software represents a saturated space. We don't see sufficient growth potential. Perhaps with more experience. Each night, I return to the whiteboard, refining, rethinking, rebuilding. The rejection counter reaches double digits, 10 investors seeing nothing valuable in my vision. On a particularly difficult Tuesday, after a client slashes their project budget in half, I sit cross-legged on my futon with legal paperwork spread before me. Serena Elizabeth Maddox. I read aloud from my birth certificate. Beside it lies the name change application. My pen hovers over the line marked Requested New Name. Serena Elizabeth Arden. I write with steady hand. Not a complete reinvention, just enough separation to build something untethered from the Maddox legacy. Something entirely mine. The following week brings my lowest point. Bus fare versus grocery money, a choice between electricity and internet, the latter non-negotiable for work. The pile of freelance UI/UX projects continues to drain precious hours from developing my prototype, yet these contracts remain essential for financial survival. My routine becomes a relentless cycle, working until exhaustion blurs my sight, catching a few hours of rest, then beginning anew. Freelance work fills my days while my startup consumes my nights. Sleep becomes a luxury reserved for absolute necessity. Then arrives the encounter that transforms everything. On a Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Patricia Gaines meets me at a campus cafe, her arms crossed and skepticism carved into her experienced features. 3 decades in education have left her with minimal tolerance for what she terms technological miracle solutions. So you're yet another developer who believes code can substitute for educators? She inquires, ignoring the presentation materials I've prepared. Actually, I believe technology can liberate teachers to focus on teaching, I counter, positioning my laptop toward her. May I demonstrate rather than simply explain? Perhaps my conviction, or maybe my evident fatigue, causes her to pause. She gives a single nod of consent. For the following 17 minutes, I showcase my prototype, how it recognizes when students struggle with multiplication while excelling at division, how it presents identical concepts through varied approaches, visual storytelling, hands-on application, building confidence through carefully calibrated challenges. This supports the children everyone abandons, I explain, my voice strengthening. Those labeled as difficult or slow when they're simply processing information differently. Upon completion, Dr. Gaines stares at the screen in prolonged silence. Finally, she looks up. My 3rd grade classroom contains 6 students reading 3 grade levels below standard, she states. Their former teachers dismissed them entirely. Would this system benefit them? It was designed specifically for them, I respond. She straightens her posture. I'll provide you with 8 weeks in my classroom. If it fails, I'll ensure every administrator in the district knows about it. And if it succeeds, a slight smile appears. I know numerous educators who require this. The following day, I walk home instead of taking public transport, saving the bus fare for a celebratory ramen dinner, complete with an actual vegetable for the first time in months. The road ahead finally shows signs of illumination. 2 weeks later, I interview Thomas Reynolds for a part-time development role I can scarcely afford. He examines my code with increasing fascination, asking questions that demonstrate genuine comprehension of the vision. This compensation is, he starts, insultingly inadequate. I'm aware, I complete his thought, but there's equity available if we survive. And I can guarantee you'll be creating something meaningful. He studies me intently. When do I begin? Our initial office occupies a converted storage space, with unreliable internet and folding tables serving as workstations. Thomas contributes a coffee maker, our first workplace amenity. We commemorate our inaugural school contract with pizza consumed while seated on the floor, balancing paper plates on our knees. We're actually earning money for this work. Thomas toasts with tepid soda. The team expands gradually. Marissa handles UI/UX design, Jaden manages data analysis, Raphael oversees curriculum integration. 5 desks packed into storage-sized quarters. 5 individuals who maintained faith when nobody else would. During a sweltering August afternoon, my phone rings with an unknown number. Is this Serena Arden? Asks a professional voice. This is Eleanor Mitchell from the Brightwood Educational Foundation. We've been monitoring your pilot program results with significant interest. I remain motionless, fearing any movement might shatter this moment. We'd like to explore potential funding for substantial expansion. That evening, alone in my apartment, a slightly larger one now featuring an actual bedroom, I examine the email confirming the foundation's interest. $3 million in seed funding. National distribution possibilities. Everything I've worked toward materializing from dream to reality. My finger hovers over my father's contact information. For an instant, I envision his expression when I share this news. The validation, acknowledgement, perhaps even pride. I close the contact list without calling. They've made their position clear. I don't exist in their world unless I exist on their terms. Some victories aren't meant to be shared. Instead, I open my browser and research Apex Core Solutions financial statements, my father's company where he's dedicated 20 years, ascending to division president, constructing his identity and status. The company he values more than his daughter. The quarterly reports reveal what business media hasn't yet discovered: consecutive quarters of declining revenue, eroding market share, a vulnerable corporation. I create a new document titled Strategic Acquisition Framework. Beneath it, I write my first note: Delaware Holding Company, to preserve privacy. Outside my window, the New Mexico sunset blazes in orange and purple. Inside, within deepening shadows, I begin constructing something entirely different from educational software, a pathway back to the family circle. Not as the forgotten daughter, but as the woman controlling everything they value. 3 years later, sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office at Arden EdTech headquarters. I stand before the glass wall, Las Cruces spreading below like evidence of distance traveled. 3 years ago, I worked from a converted storage unit with second-hand furniture. Now, 20 employees occupy the open-concept workspace behind me, their keyboards clicking in rhythm with progress. Thomas knocks on my open door, carrying a folder. The National EdTech Fund acquisition offer arrived. Final figures. My stomach tightens as I accept the folder. The bottom line figure still shocks me: 8 digits with substantial buffer before the decimal point. Have you reviewed this? My voice stays steady despite my racing heart. Thomas grins, deepening the crow's feet around his eyes. Difficult to avoid. The first person you hire deserves first glimpse, right? My mouth corners lift. Thomas believed in Arden EdTech when it existed only as algorithms on whiteboards and instant ramen dinners. He left Microsoft Security to join me, working 6 months, without salary, when funds depleted. Gather everyone. They should hear this together. 20 minutes later, my team assembles in our central meeting space. No massive mahogany table like Warren's conference room, just comfortable chairs arranged in a circle, hierarchy deliberately flattened. We've received the final acquisition offer from the National Educational Technology Fund, I announce, meeting each pair of eyes. $26 million for our adaptive learning platform. The room explodes. Michaela, our UX designer, covers her mouth with both hands. Dev, our lead programmer, thrusts his fists skyward. Even reserved Ramona from accounting permits herself a smile. This isn't my success. I continue when the excitement subsides. This belongs to everyone who believed in making education accessible when traditional systems failed. My throat constricts. To everyone who recognized value where my own family couldn't. Scattered applause erupts, but my thoughts drift to another conference room 40 miles north. Warren, seated at Apex Core's table head, unaware his company has been hemorrhaging market share for months, unaware his daughter holds sufficient shares to control his professional destiny. Thomas catches my eye across the room, his expression posing a silent question. Are we proceeding with a plan? I nod once, barely noticeable. In my office, I unlock my bottom drawer. Inside lies a manila folder containing printouts of Warren's emails about me. Serena's little computer project and hobby business feature prominently in conversations with potential investors who later decline meetings with me. Chase's name appears throughout several threads. My phone buzzes with Derek's text. Hope you're well. Sending Father's Day invitations. Coming this year? 3 years of similar messages, surface-level concern without substance. Never once inquiring about my work or acknowledging the family dynamics that drove me away. I open my laptop to find Warren's expected email. The same perfunctory invitation he sends annually, likely drafted by his assistant. No mention of our 3-year silence. No acknowledgement of my absence. My reply requires 4 careful drafts before satisfaction. I'll be there. Looking forward to seeing everyone. 6 simple words revealing nothing of what awaits. The sleek black car I purchased last week occupies my assigned parking space. Not for display, a milestone marker representing the day I could afford it without financial strain. The salesman asked if I wanted to test drive a red model. I declined. Black holds power, doesn't demand attention, simply commands respect. My calendar notification appears. Therapy, 3 p.m. Dr. Levinson has guided me through this process for 18 months, helping separate healthy closure from destructive revenge. Today's session focuses on final preparation. Are you certain this confrontation serves your healing rather than prolonging pain? She asks from her desert sand-colored office walls. I consider her question carefully. This isn't about harming them. It's about liberating myself. And the acquisition timing coinciding with Father's Day? Strategic. I trace the edge of her leather sofa with my fingertip. Warren's division performance reviews are scheduled for Monday. The board needs to understand who's actually in control before decisions are made. Leaving her office, my phone rings. Chase's real estate partner, unaware of our connection, wants to discuss potential educational spaces for Arden EdTech's expansion. The invisible threads I've been weaving pull tighter. That evening, Thomas calls as I prepare legal documents for the black envelope. Are you absolutely certain about this? His voice carries genuine concern. Once you cross this bridge. I close my eyes, breathing deeply. Fear flutters beneath my ribcage, not of confrontation, but of its absence. Of walking away without claiming my truth. Of never being seen by those who should have seen me first. I've never been more certain of anything, I answer, sealing the envelope with deliberate pressure. It's time they understood exactly who I've become without them. The confrontation. At dinner, Warren's knuckles whiten around his butter knife. This is impossible. You can't possibly have the capital to. Arden EdTech evaluated at $175 million after our last funding round. The educational software I began developing in college, the one you called my little hobby, now serves over 2,000 schools nationwide. But your name? Chase sputters. The documents say Serena Arden. I legally changed it 3 years ago, the day after Mom's funeral. Actually, the day you all flew to Aspen without me. Derek flinches. Warren's face contorts with rage, then shifts to calculation. Sweetheart, this is impressive. I always knew you had potential. If you just... don't. My voice cuts through his patronizing tone. I have emails where you told Professor Jenkins my software concept was unrealistic. I have the recording of you telling investors to avoid my hobby business. Chase's smirk vanishes. You recorded us? I documented everything, including your text to Richard Briggs, warning him I was emotional and not business-minded. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. Warren slams his fist on the table. You did this for revenge. I did this despite you. Not because of you. I meet his gaze steadily. Every time you dismissed me, every time you interrupted my pitch to praise Chase's real estate deals, every time you called my work, that computer thing, I built Arden EdTech while you were busy telling everyone I would fail. Heavy silence blankets the room. Derek stares at his plate. Chase works silently. I never thought you had it in you. Warren finally whispers, his voice hollow. That's the problem, Dad. It never mattered what you thought. It only mattered what I accomplished. Derek looks up, his eyes wide. Dad, we were wrong about her. Chase's mask slips completely, revealing naked envy. So what now? You fire us all, take over? Is that your plan? I didn't come for your approval or for revenge. I stand, smoothing my jacket. I came for closure. Apex Core's education division will be integrated with Arden EdTech. The board meets next week to discuss restructuring the remaining divisions. You can't just, Warren begins. I can. I place my napkin beside my plate. As majority shareholder, I will. Any future relationship between us requires acknowledgement of what happened and genuine respect moving forward. Those terms are non-negotiable. I pick up my purse and walk toward the door. Stunned silence follows me like a shadow. Mom would have been proud, I say without turning around. She was the only one who ever believed in me. The door closes behind me with a soft click that sounds like freedom. 6 months later. Morning sun filters through the glass walls of Arden EdTech's expanded headquarters, casting golden light across the innovation lab where 4 young women huddle around a prototype, their excitement palpable. "Miss Arden, we've increased engagement metrics by 38% with the new interface," says Lydia, her eyes bright with creation's thrill. At 22, she reminds me of myself, except she has something I never did, a mentor who believes in her. "Show me," I say, leaning in to watch as she demonstrates the adaptive learning platform that automatically adjusts to different cognitive styles. Pride blooms warm in my chest, not the brittle pride of proving others wrong, but something richer, the satisfaction of building something meaningful. I catch my reflection in the glass wall. The woman looking back stands taller, smiles easier. My red blazer, once worn like armor, now feels like a choice rather than a statement. My phone buzzes with Thomas's text. "Board meeting prepped. Apex Core transition complete." In my office, framed in simple black, hangs a small embroidered reminder. "Build. Don't break." A gift from Margaret, the first person who saw potential in my hobby software when my own family dismissed it. The words have become my North Star. Warren took early retirement rather than report to me. His farewell email to staff never mentioned my name, just new management. Chase has called 17 times in the past month, each voicemail more desperate than the last, filled with partnership proposals and family legacy talk. I haven't returned a single one. Derek is different. His letter arrived 3 weeks ago, handwritten on yellow legal pad. I should have spoken up. I should have seen what was happening. I can't undo the past, but I'd like to understand who you are now if you'll let me. We've had coffee twice. Awkward, halting conversations punctuated by long silences, but without family role performances. Progress measured in small truths. My therapist, Patricia, says healing isn't linear. Some days I still wake with that familiar knot in my stomach, phantom echoes of Warren's dismissive tone ringing in my ears. But those moments grow fewer. Tonight, I host a small dinner at my new home, a modest but light-filled house near the university. No formal dining room, just a round table in an open kitchen where Thomas, Margaret, Patricia, and 4 team members gather. Derek sits somewhat uncertainly among them, the only blood relation present. Wine glasses catch the light as I raise a toast to building something that matters. Later, as guests depart, Derek lingers. "Do you think Dad will ever understand what he lost?" I watch headlights fade down my driveway. That's not my responsibility anymore. The scholarship for overlooked STEM students launches next month. The magazine feature on quiet leadership publishes next week. But tonight, in this moment of simple connection, I realize success isn't measured in acquisitions or revenge. It's measured in freedom.